It's been 6 years since Jensen Huang, Nvidia CEO, came to the stage and announced that their GPUs will have a real-time ray tracing support and forced games to have it. So after 3 generations, multiple GPUs and countless updates later, ray tracing is still unattainable for most people and it's making games worse. But what is ray tracing in the first place? It is a computer graphics techniques that simulates a light behavior the way it behaves in the real world. The end product is realistic looking and behaving shadows and reflection compared to rasterizations where game developer have to do all these manually. But this is not a new technology that Nvidia somehow suddenly invented. This has been in use for years. But with Nvidia GPUs, games can do that in real time. And I'm not going to lie, it looks good when the game has full-on path tracing or most of the ray tracing feature that Nvidia offers. But most games doesn't have the full set of ray tracing features because there are different types of ray tracing techniques that games use, from reflections to shadows, lighting or global illumination, ambient occlusion, and even full scene path tracing. Each comes with its pros and cons. Pros being it looks really good, the con being it takes up a lot of performance. First, let's look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. If you look closely at this frame, the shadow on the right side are not much defined compared to on the left side. The difference is very minimal, but the performance difference is very high. With ray traced shadows, we are at high 90s, and without ray traced shadows, we are doing over 100 FPS. Same here, if you look closely at the nest or whatever that is, the shadows on it are much more realistic. The way the sunlight is hitting it, and few crevices are darker than others. Lastly, here the shadow details on both frames are very similar. Yes, using ray tracing, the left side looks much more dynamic than the right side, but it is very minimal. But performance difference is not as subtle as the visual differences are. The benchmarks are done using max settings, the difference being the ray traced shadows. There is a 30% performance difference on average with ray tracing on and off. Now let's look at the best example of ray tracing, Cyberpunk 2077. On the left side, there is no ray tracing, and on the right side, we have ray tracing on Ultra. So in this example, the pothole on the left side looks good, but on the right side, you can see the reflections. The whole frame looks way more dynamic. Left side looks good because the game is really pretty, but compared to the ray tracing side, it looks flat. For another example here, without ray tracing, some details are missing on the left side, especially below the graffiti of the woman. The shadows of the street lamps is missing on the left side compared to the right side. And here is the big example. Look at this water puddle on the street. On the left side, it looks like the pavement is wet, but on the right side, it really gives you the illusion that yes, there is a water puddle. You can clearly see the reflections of the building, the fence, and I'm not going to lie, it looks freaking good. Not only that, the shadows of the grass are missing on the left side. And talking about performance, on an average, there is 60% performance difference, and with ray tracing on, I can barely play this game because of high input lag. I cannot deny that Cyberpunk and ray tracing goes hand in hand. The game looks already so pretty, and when you turn on ray tracing, it just becomes a looker. Hardware Unboxed did a poll 7 months ago asking their audience that do they play games with ray tracing on or not. 54,000 people voted on that poll. 52% of them said they don't. 22% of the people play games with ray tracing enabled, and 26% do in some games and not in others. And I know this poll is not very scientific, but I can make a guess that Hardware Unboxed have a quite large number of subscribers and have a mixture of audience who owns different types and different combinations of hardware from different places. So is ray tracing worth it? Even after 6 years of it being introduced, unfortunately, it's not for an average gamer, but if you own a 4090 or a 4080 Super, then it is for you. But most people don't have a 4090 or a 4080. According to Steam's hardware survey in 2024, right now the most popular GPU is a 60 series GPU. I'm talking about 3060 here, and its ray tracing performance, well, for lack of a better word, very underwhelming. Most games are not developed as closely as Cyberpunk 2077 has, so they don't have the incentive to have all the ray tracing techniques that makes noticeable difference in visual clarity. And more than that, ray tracing isn't the topic of gossip anymore. When a new game releases, most people talk about how good the narrative is, how good the gameplay is. Look at last few game releases, big game releases. Most people talked about its story, its gameplay mechanics. Yes, Black Myth Wukong looks really good, but how much it is talked about? Most people are impressed because the game plays very good. Do I think that ray tracing will fizzle out from the industry like Nvidia's Hairworks had? I don't think so. I do think that ray tracing will become the norm of gaming industry, and most games will ship with a default ray tracing settings in near future. But to have that near future, we need to wait at least 5 years or 2 more graphics generation. Until we get 4090 level performance on a budget GPU, ray tracing won't get the traction it deserves. But until then, you can like the video if you liked it. If you haven't, well, feel free to dislike, and let me know in the comment section what do you guys think about my opinion, or do you guys differ from my opinion or not. And if you want to watch more videos from us, check out this video right here. And if you want to subscribe, which I highly appreciate if you do that, well, do it by here. And there's Akash, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.